Hello and welcome to Norwood News and My Dining Room. Today is October 28th and I'm your host, Brian Boudreau. It's great to have you with us as we end another week here in Norwood. This week on Norwood News, Halloween visits Norwood, Micah wins gold, but as you can see, we are clearly at my dining room table because Norwood High School was evacuated earlier Thursday after several reports of strong odor of gas in the upper floors. School was not officially in session at 7:50 when the fire alarm was activated. Norwood Fire arrived on scene and began investigating the situation inside. After calling in the gas company, school was officially called off for the day. At the time of this newscast, the odor is still being investigated by National Grid and Norwood Fire. Norwood News will continue to update you on the situation. For the past month, the NHS Marching Band has been performing at Micah every weekend. Steve Conan explains what Micah stands for and takes us on the marching band's journey through the past month performing at Micah.
Micah is a Massachusetts Instrumental and Choral Conductors Association, and we, as the Norwood High School Marching Band, participates in the marching band festivals tied to that organization. Our first weekend out, we attended a preview show, which is basically a performance followed by a clinic with the judges, where they actually work with us and have conversations with us. The following weekend, we went out to Shepherd Hill in Dudley, Massachusetts, and we had an overall 4-star rating. This past weekend, we had a doubleheader. We were at Wakefield for the Northeast 2 Festival for Micah. We had another 4-star rating, slightly better than the week before. And then we climbed the ladder even further at our home show at Norwood for the Southeast Festival this past Sunday. This weekend at Micah State Finals, we achieved the rating of a gold medal, which is the highest rating that can be achieved at Micah. The students really gain a sense of camaraderie, team building, learning to work with others. Our band program is on the small side, so one person is missing, it is noticeable and obvious. Students get the experience of learning to not just be all about them, but about a larger picture. So it's all about team building with us, and everyone has an important cog in this massive machine we call marching band and color guard.
A little rain this past Saturday was not going to stop the 150th from celebrating their Halloween Fest. The committee had to pivot the Halloween Fest inside to the Civic this past weekend to accommodate the weather. Committee members Ernie Pachakowski and Jerry Miller were extremely excited with the turnout.
Hi, Ernie Pachakowski from the 150th Committee. As you can see, it's just a great event. It's for whole families. As you can see, that we've got entire families all in costumes. It's been just a great event. Young kids, middle-aged kids, older kids, 70, 80, 90-year-old kids all having a great time. We've got all kinds of events going on. Just a couple of thanks. We had a lot of help from the Norwood High School. The football team was here to help set up and help break down. The Norwood High School Drama Club set up all kinds of vignettes for us, and the Norwood High School Art Department took care of all our face painting and pumpkin painting. So I just want to give a thanks to them. Norwood Public Works Department, again, whatever we need, they're there. And then we had a lot of great sponsors. Check out our sponsor list: Big Y, Home Depot, Roaches, Furlongs, Conrad's, Norwood High School, Zimbardo Insurance. Without sponsors, these events don't happen. It's just another great event for the people in Norwood to come out and enjoy themselves.
At 10 minutes to 3, we had nobody outside. We were very nervous. At 3 o'clock, the crowd started coming in, and as you can see, it's a pretty successful night. We're very pleased. The 150 group worked hard on this. Ernie Pachakowski, John Ricardoni, but they really worked hard on this to make sure this thing happened, and we're very pleased that it's going very well.
We'll be right back with the weekly sports update, and we see what happens in government. Introduced at last month's Board of Health meeting, Abby Atkins has joined the town of Norwood as the new Assistant Health Director under Stacy Lane. Abby comes to Norwood from Brookline. Abby likes the more personal connection she's able to make here in Norwood and looks forward to becoming a part of the community.
Brookline is almost a city where you have, that many more residents, that many more renters, and because it's close to Boston, you get a lot of the same issues with housing that you get in Boston. So coming to Norwood is nice because, it's a smaller community. Everybody's really friendly and so appreciative of your time and your help with their problems. It's kind of nice because you get to know more people probably a little bit better than you would in a bigger town, where there's some level of that anonymity that makes it harder to connect with the residents and build that relationship where they recognize you as a resource and someone they can come to and get a good response. I mean, most towns do that. It's just harder to build that rapport with people when there's just that many more people that you're working with on a day-to-day.
Abby, we look forward to see what you do here in the town of Norwood. The town of Norwood will be celebrating Veterans Day in just a few weeks. The annual Veterans Day Parade garners a high turnout every year. This year, the Veterans Recognition Mass will be held at St. Catherine's at 8 a.m. The Veterans Day Parade will step off at 10 a.m. from the Balch School in South Norwood and march through town to the gazebo where ceremonies and observances will kick off at 10:45. Following the ceremonies at the Common, collation will be held at the VFW on Dean Street. And if you're unable to attend the event, NCM will be broadcasting it live on the NCM Community Channel. Now we're going to toss it over to Ron Marshalsea with sports out on the porch.
I'm Ron Marshalsea, and this is your sports update. Field hockey tied Dedham 0-0 and tied Medfield 2-2, with Morgan Nauman and Caroline Forrest scoring back-to-back goals within a few minutes of the start of the game. And Medfield answered by scoring their own back-to-back goals at the start of the second half. The team was able to get the win on their senior night, however, beating Holliston 2-0. Morgan Nauman scored the first goal off a great shot from Lauren Galvin, and Caroline Forrest scored the second goal against Holliston. The volleyball team beat both Sharon and Bellingham and lost to Westwood this week. The seniors got a great send-off before the Bellingham game as it was their senior night and were able to cap it off with a win. The football team had a close win against Ashland last Friday night, 7-0. The Mustangs were able to choose 7 home minutes off the clock on their first drive of the game as both them and the visiting Ashland were running the ball all night. The defense was incredible, with senior captain Ethan Brownbill and sophomore Tom Benson making crucial plays, stopping the Clockers in their tracks. The score was 0-0 at the half, but the tie was broken in the third quarter, but with a 36-yard touchdown run by senior Manny Luongo. The team's next game is Friday under the lights against Westwood at 7. The cross-country teams hosted the TVL Championship last Saturday, where Dylan Hamway and Dylan O'Brien finished 4th and 6th overall. Both of them set new records for the first and second fastest times running the Coakley course in Norwood High School history. Boys soccer had some tough losses to Medfield and Holliston, and they will be at home against Westwood for their last game of the season. And the girls soccer team lost to both Medfield and Holliston, and they will travel to one of the teams they tied with earlier in the season, Westwood, which will also be their last game. And that's all I have for this slightly different version of Sports Update. I'm Ron Marshalsea. And Norwood News will be right back after this break.
In government, at the Board of Health meeting on Monday, the board voted to appoint Connor Brosnan as the new Drug-Free Communities Program Director, as well as Diana Hillary as a public health nurse. They also got an update about infectious diseases in the town and the region from the regional epidemiologist.
So the first one is COVID-19. Still, I know, I'm sorry. We're seeing an overall decrease in cases though, so that's pretty good. We are seeing that children aged 0 to 9, people aged 30 to 39, and people over the age of 80 are having some larger, we're seeing larger numbers of COVID in them. So So I just wanted to like remind everyone to get the second bivalent booster and just keep on top of those booster doses. But overall for the town, we're seeing a decrease, and for the state in general, we're seeing a decrease. And we're handling it pretty well. And then our second infectious disease, it's flu season. And so we're beginning to see an uptick in flu cases. And in general, if people are able to get the flu vaccine, they should get the flu vaccine just so that it reduces symptoms, and so we don't have a lot more like respiratory diseases floating around. We worry that when people have flu and people have COVID, they often like mix them up, and so we don't want people to accidentally like start saying like, oh, it's just the flu when it's actually COVID, and they may actually need more intensive care. So the flu vaccine is out, and we have regular clinics here at the health department for people to get their flu vaccine if they want to. And then the third infectious disease that we're kind of concerned about is Ebola. Ebola, before anyone panics. The CDC and the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, they've reached out to the local boards of health and have instructed all of us to start screening travelers who might have traveled in, out, or through the country of Uganda, because that country is currently experiencing an Ebola outbreak.
What would be the symptoms?
So the beginning symptoms are pretty mild. They're like fevers, chills. Sometimes there's a rash that develops, like a hemorrhagic rash. Some of the big symptoms of Ebola are just bleeding from several different orifices. Like if you're vomiting and you see blood, if you have diarrhea and you see blood, if you cough and you see blood, that's generally a sign of Ebola.
The planning board met at the senior center Monday night. The public hearing for the proposed zoning amendment regarding kennels in residential zoning districts was indefinitely postponed until next year. The proposed zoning amendment will not be on the warrant for upcoming special town meeting. The group welcomed representatives from FM Global for an informal discussion about plans for a new building. Early site plans to detail a campus-style, pedestrian-friendly facility almost doubled in size. Board Chair Ernie Pachakowski expressed his support for the business that planted its roots in Norwood long ago.
Personally, my initial impact, my initial thoughts here is it looks great, you know, and you know, FMR Factory Mutual has been in Norwood, you know, since I was a kid, and I don't know how long you guys have been in Norwood, but you're, well, was that?
51 or
yeah, I mean, you know, well over 70 years, and you know, you've been a mainstay of Route 1, you know, for all that time. Through many changes. My initial is very favorable. Seems like you want to do it right, and you know, the additional green space is always good. The you know, the view from Route 1 will really, you know, clean it up.
Board members spoke highly of the plan's efforts to improve green space in pedestrian-friendly areas. The legal team for Alexandria Incorporated came before the board to seek waiver approvals for general site changes in the remodification of a street on Moderna Way. After discussion, the board approved the waivers and the request to change a road to a driveway. The planning board meets again on November 7th. At Tuesday night's Board of Selectmen meeting, we learned that a movie will be filmed at the Governor's Mansion, also known as the Dollhouse Mansion, and will star Liam Neeson and Ron Perlman. The production company, Boatyard Productions, appeared before the selectmen to get street closure approvals. The movie being filmed is called Thug and follows the story of an aging gangster. Norwood Community Media also attended the selectmen's meeting during the Verizon cable license public hearing. The selectmen approved the Verizon cable license unanimously. The Board of Selectmen will meet again on November 8th. On Wednesday night, the school committee had their first traveling meeting this year and took place at Norwood High School. There was a number of appearances, including a special education staffing request, a report from Food Services, as well as Dr. Galligan introduced the first ever Chair of the Student Advisory Committee, Kira O'Donnell. The Chair of the Student Advisory Committee is the liaison from the entire student body, kindergarten through 12th grade, and the school committee. Kira is the Vice President of the class of 2023 and is looking forward to get this opportunity as well as a great school year. Another portion of the meeting had Dr. Wyatt talk about an overview of the MCAS results from 2021 to 2022 school year, citing there was a drop in reading, writing, and math primarily due to COVID. The committee further discussed how they, as well as the state, believe it will take at least 5 years for MCAS scores to get back up to where they once were. The committee will have their next meeting on November 16th. Starting this weekend on Saturday, October 29th from 2 to 3, the Norwood's 150th Committee has teamed up with the Old Parish Volunteers to exhibit NHS art students' work about Norwood history. These pieces of artwork come alive through data and artwork. The exhibit runs from October 29th to November 5th at the Old Parish Cemetery from dawn until dusk. Effective November 1st, mattresses, box springs, and textiles can no longer be disposed of in landfills, transfer stations, or waste-to-energy facilities in Massachusetts. These items must be properly disposed of at facilities that promote their recycling. Fortunately, Norwood had these facilities in place for many years, so the recycling of these items remains simple. For textiles, there is a textile box at every school and at the Winter Street Recycling Facility. You could still bring your old mattress and box spring to the Winter Street facility on Saturdays between 8 and 1:30 p.m. For more information, please visit www.norwoodma.gov. Well, that's all for Norwood News. Thank you for joining me in my dining room and Ron on the porch. To stay up to date with Norwood Community Media, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend.